You do not know what you look like. Not really. You have never seen your own face the way other people see it. Every mirror reverses you. Every description someone gives of you arrives already filtered through whatever they needed you to be when they built the image. You have been constructing a self your entire life, from materials you cannot directly touch, using reflections you cannot fully trust, in mirrors held by people whose inner life you will never have complete access to. And you have been calling the result you. A sociologist in the early 20th century named the mechanism underneath this with a precision that should have been more disturbing than it was received. He called it the looking glass self. The idea is simple on the surface and corrosive underneath. You do not perceive yourself directly. You perceive how you imagine others perceive you. Then you internalize that perception and treat it as self-knowledge. What you carry around as your identity is not a view of yourself. It is a view of a view, a copy of a copy, a reflection of a reflection, with no original anywhere in the chain. This means the person you believe yourself to be was built by other people without their knowing it and without your consent. But here is where it gets stranger and more uncomfortable than most people allow themselves to follow. The reflections are not unified. Right now, simultaneously, there are versions of you living inside other people's minds that contradict each other completely. The person who knew you during the worst period of your life carries a version assembled from evidence you have spent years moving away from. They reach for it instinctively, the way people reach for the explanation that arrived first, and it shapes every decision they make about how close to stand, what to trust you with, who to tell their friends you are. That version is operational. It is making real decisions about your life, and you have no access to it and cannot correct it. Then there is the archive. Every version of you that ever existed in a digital record is still there. Photos from years ago, messages from a self that no longer holds those opinions, loves those people, lives inside that particular fear. Someone is accessing that record right now, building their first impression of you, not from the person that exists today, but from a document of someone who dissolved and reformed more than once since the timestamp. You moved. The record did not, and the record does not know the difference between then and now, and does not care. You are being understood, constantly, by evidence that is no longer accurate. The philosophical question this opens is one that most people approach and immediately retreat from, because both possible answers are unsettling in different directions. Is there a real self underneath all of the reflections? Something prior to the copies, something stable and original that exists before the looking glass and would exist without it? Or are the reflections all there is? Is the self not the thing being reflected, but the accumulated sum of the reflections themselves, with nothing underneath? A philosopher studying the structure of consciousness drew a line that permanently changes the question once you encounter it. He separated what he called the I from the me, the self as the one doing the experiencing, from the self as the one being experienced, catalogued, observed, described. The me is available. You can access it easily because other people have been building it for you your whole life and handing it back in the form of reactions, labels, roles, expectations. The I, the thing that is actually behind the experience, the knower rather than the known, sits permanently just outside the angle at which you can look directly at it. You cannot see the I with the eye. Most people spend their entire lives exclusively inside the me, the known self, the reflected self, the self that was constructed in the looking glass and handed back as identity. They mistake the copy for the original because the copy is all they have ever been shown. And then the performance begins, which is where the real damage happens. When you spend enough time performing a version of yourself for the reflections, something shifts in the direction of the performance. Not immediately, gradually. The role is inhabited long enough that the question of what existed before it becomes genuinely difficult to answer. Not because the original disappeared, because the performance layered over it so completely, so consistently, across so many years and so many mirrors, that what was underneath stopped being legible even from the inside. The person who built an entire identity around being the responsible one in the family, the person who performed competence for long enough that admitting confusion started to feel like a structural threat to the self. The person who was told at a formative age what they were and organized a life around proving or disproving that verdict, and cannot now locate the self that existed before the verdict arrived. These are not pathological cases. These are the ordinary outcomes of a self built primarily from reflected material, with no access to what was doing the reflecting. The rupture, when it comes, arrives as loss, a crisis, a silence, a period of solitude that removes the usual mirrors and leaves something behind that is raw and nameless and does not match any of the descriptions that have been accumulating for years. Most people experience this as breakdown, as the self dissolving, as something going wrong. It is the closest thing available to the I behind the me, and it is terrible precisely because it does not look like anything yet. It has not been reflected back. It has not been described or labeled or incorporated into a narrative. It is prior to all of that, which means it cannot be recognized by the only instruments available, which are the mirrors, because it has not yet been put in front of one. This is the moment the question of identity becomes real rather than theoretical. Not who do others think I am, not who have I been performing, but what is the thing doing the performing, and does it have anything to say for itself when the audience leaves? The honest answer to who you are is not the answer the question seems to be asking for. You are not a fixed thing waiting beneath the layers to be excavated. There is no original self buried under the performance that, once reached, will make everything suddenly legible. That is the promise of a certain kind of self-help, and it is a false one, and it is false in a way that does the specific damage of sending people looking in the wrong direction for something that cannot be found because it does not exist in the form they are looking for. What is actually there, when the mirrors go quiet, is not a noun. It is a verb, not a self to be discovered, but a direction to be chosen, repeatedly, without external confirmation, in the absence of any reflection that can tell you whether you are getting it right. The self is not something you have, it is something you do, something you are doing right now, in every decision about what to pursue and what to avoid and what to say and what to protect and what to let go of and what to stand for when no one is watching to register it. Not found, chosen, over and over and over. In the moments when the looking glass goes dark and the only question is what you do next, without a reflection to approve it first. The photo is still out there. The old versions are still circulating. Someone is forming an impression of you right now from a record that stopped updating years before they found it. None of that is you. You are the one who noticed the gap between the record and what is actually here. The question is not who you are. The question is what you do with the one who is asking.